So now we can get started on our home page. So let's get straight into that. So to do that, we're going to come to Pages and then All Pages. And we want to edit our home page with Elementor. Now, if you haven't already opened it up in Elementor, then of course go to Edit and then Edit with Elementor up the top. So that's going to open up the page builder and then we can get designing our home page. So now that we have our header and footer in place, that's all looking more like a normal website. Let's first of all remove this title. So let's come to the page settings up here, come down and toggle the hide title to on. Then we want to get building. So let's select the plus. You can drag a container in here so we can create a hero. So we're going to create a banner for the top of our homepage. Let's give this a min height of, let's say maybe 500, 600. 500, I think 5. Go straight down the middle, why not? 550. And now we can start adding some more bits inside of this. So let's add another container. That's going to add another container inside, and that is going to be fine. Let's just think for a second what this is going to look like. I would say, yeah, that will be fine for now. So if we now select the outside container, we just want to change the justify content to be in the center so that we have this sitting in the center right here. So now what we want to do is add 2 more containers. One container, and then in fact the outer container, so this one here that we just moved that into, let's change that as a row horizontal like that. And then we can do space between, and what we'll do, we'll just duplicate this one more time so that they are next to each other just like that. So that is looking okay for now. Now what I am thinking is to have an image over this side and to have some text and a button over this side. So let's do that now. Let's come over to the plus. Let's drag first the image into that right hand side. Let's select the plus. Let's drag the heading into the left hand side. Select the plus again and let's drag a text edit into the left hand side. And then lastly a button. Let's just search for the button, drag that in, make sure it's in the right spot so that it looks like that. So that is okay for now. Let's go and just edit these headings. So the heading here, let's just say innovative and creative web design for every niche and industry. That'll do for now. And then for the text, let's just say we bring the power of creative design into your workflow so that you can kick back and relax whilst we manage the whole process for you. I'm just completely winging this, guys. This isn't coming from a notepad or anything like that, so it doesn't make too much difference if it's a bit nonsensical or not exactly the best copy, the most compelling copy ever. That isn't the idea of this course. The idea is to create beautiful designs. So let's just leave that for now. That is absolutely fine. Lastly, let's just edit this button. We're going to say learn more. Let's say learn more. Let's make it like that. So that is fine. Or find out about us, we could say, but let's just leave it as learn more. That's absolutely fine. Let me first just change the style of that button because I'm going to add a purple background gradient, same as that color for the button. So I just want to change that now. So let's change the background type here to a gradient. Let's select the accent. Let's select the accent again for the second. We'll just slightly change that color to something a little bit more subtle like that. Let's change that angle to maybe 220. Just to put it on a slight angle from corner to corner, which is, I think, looks a lot better. That's fine. Let's change that text color to white. In fact, let's make that a global now. So white, create. That is fine. I'm happy with that for now. Typography, we do need to create a typography, don't we? So let's just create. So this is set as the default accent. So In fact, let's come back to, where's it gone? Button. Let's change this to Montserrat. In fact, I'm pretty sure it was just text, wasn't it? But we'll set it up as a new global anyway. So let's make this Montserrat. Montserrat, we had that as REM1. Make that 600. Transform. We could have it uppercase if we wanted. I'm going to keep it default. I think that's, or even capitalize. No, I'll leave it as default. Why not? That'll be fine. And like that is okay. What I will do is I am going to add that as a button typography, just so that we have that saved. If I can spell typography, create that. So whenever we need to apply that, that can be done. We can edit the typography under our button globals, can't we? So in fact, let's just do that now whilst we're here, because we can then also, in fact, before I do that, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me just create this H1 as a global primary. So the heading will change the typography to primary, which it is. That is primary, that is fine. And then the text, primary and text, I assume. Yep, absolutely. So now we can edit those as well to get them looking right for this project as well. So let's now come along to first the button. Let's just change that typography of our button to our button typography so that that will be uniform throughout. That is good. Save changes, go back. Now let's go to global fonts. Now let's change and tweak this primary. So let's change this to Montserrat. Let's have a look at the rem. Let's say 3. Some reason that isn't changing for it. It's really strange. Sometimes it doesn't. Oh, I think I know what it is. What I will do quickly is just save that changes. I'm going to go ahead and go back to editor. I'm going to publish that. And if you don't already have another page open, let's come back to here, go to manage website. And from there, we're going to come to Elementor and then settings. And we're just going to check these disable default colors and fonts. Save the changes, come back to this, reload this, and now that should work fine. So, of course, whenever we're starting a new project, I know that sometimes the global fonts and colors are impacted unless we check those two boxes. So make sure those are checked. And now we can start playing with the colors. So let me make sure these are still set. Now these are now no longer the global. So let's change that typography to primary and the text color to primary as well. Do the same with this one. Style, change that to text, color to text, and then the typography to text. So now when we come to our site settings, we can start tweaking these correctly. So let's come to global fonts. Let's change this primary. Now the rem should work, which it does. That's much better. Let's maybe make this primary 1.8, I think looks pretty tidy. I'm going to leave that as 1.8. I think that is fine. Montserrat, I always like to add a little bit more line height. 1.2 pixels. In fact, I would rather that be rem 1.2. That is fine. And now if we come back to text, we can now tweak this text. So I'm going to make this text railway. We're going to make this a rem of 1. We're going to leave that as 400. That is fine. And that is fine. Let's come back there to global colors and just change the text color. In fact, I think I will keep it that dark color. We already done that, didn't we? So that is fine. Save changes, and that is okay. Back to editor. So now let's start arranging these bits here. Oh look, for some reason that line height didn't quite work as I expected. Come back to global fonts. As you can see, the line height there isn't enough now. So primary 1.2, go for 1.8. Save changes, and then back to editor now. Now this time, let's come to this left-hand container. Let's just justify that in the center. Come into the layout here. Coming to justify content in the center so that it is there. And now we can add an image over here. So what image do we want to add? I do have an image already. Not there. Where did I save it? Oh, here we go. So these are all of the, in fact, I'll just move this whole folder to download now because we're going to need all of this media anyway. So let's actually choose to upload. What we are looking for is this hero image 1 and hero image 2. So let's drag both of those in. So hero image 1, hero image 2. Of course, if this is a live site, do give it an alt text. I'm not going to worry about that now. I'm going to select this first one. I'm going to select a width for that. So I'm going to set that as a fixed pixel width. Maybe 200, maybe 400. I'm happy with 400. What I'm also going to do is then duplicate this. So duplicate the image. This time I'm going to change that to the hero image 2. And that's going to be this lady there. Let's change that also to a width of 400 is way too big. Let's move that to maybe 1. So they're about the same size, maybe 105. I'm happy with that. That is okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add. Now there is one of two ways that we could do this. We could absolutely change the position of this image to absolute. So that is absolute relative to the container that it is in. Now, if you don't understand what position absolute means, all it means is it will move it to the left highest most corner of its parent child. So its parent child of its parent container. Now, of course, its parent container is this container that we have it in, and you can see now it has been it is positioned in that top left corner. But of course, with that, we can now change the offset of horizontal and vertical orientation. So we can move that relative to its position where it just was. So we can drop that in maybe where she was before. Something like that. That is okay. I'm happy with that. Let's move that a little bit more that way. That's it. I'm happy with that. And now what I'm going to do, now of course you could have done that, sorry I didn't say, you could have done that with a negative margin as well, right, by selecting, unchecking that margin and then applying a negative margin to the top and a negative margin to the left or right to move it into the same position. So you could achieve that by either of those ways, it's absolutely fine. But what we are going to do now is we're going to add a motion effect to this. So now, I do like motion effects. I do like effects in general, but I'll say this as someone that has built hundreds of websites, use these effects sparingly because they do add a lot of additional code to a web page and they do slow your pages down. So if speed is vital for a website, let's say that it's e-commerce and its rankings are going to be determined by its page speed, then don't add effects. That is unnecessary. If you've got a fancy web developer agency website where you're showcasing your skills and expertise, of course we want to share some of all of the clever stuff that we can do as developers, right? But if you are building this for a client, even if they say we do want to have motion effects, just explain to them that it does slow the website down, and so you definitely don't want to be using too many of them. So let's now add a scrolling effect. So as we scroll, basically this is saying as we scroll, we want X to happen. So what we want to happen here is a horizontal. So do we want it to go from left? Yeah, I think to left is okay. Let's reduce that down to maybe 1.5. So you can see as we scroll, she moves over to the left. I think that looks pretty neat. So going to leave that like that. I'm happy with that. Now, of course, we need to give this container a background. So let's select this container. Let's now come up to style. And let's give it a gradient. Let's give it a gradient with our primary and secondary. So primary and secondary. We're going to change the direction of that to maybe, I'm going to go with 360. No, not 360. I don't like that. 340. That'll do anyway, but you can play around with it. Of course, if you wanted radial, you can change radial. If you wanted that to come from the center outwards, you can choose that, but we're going to stick with linear there. In fact, what I will do, I'm going to add this as a background overlay because this would look quite nice if we'd done this with a video. So I've actually got a video here. These are just some assets from my Vimeo account. Now, you guys, I just got this from Canva, right? So if you have a Canva account, you'll hear me talk about Canva all the time because I use it all the time. So I'm not telling you stuff to go out and purchase that I'm not using myself. This is stuff that I use every single day. So all I did here was I just created a new video. There are tons of videos to purchase from here. Not to purchase, sorry, that are available. And I just basically downloaded this, uploaded this to a Vimeo account, and then I can use that as a video background. So there are literally hundreds of videos. So let's say, I don't know, beach videos. All of these videos that we can use, and we can use them as backgrounds. So we're going to use this one here. I've got this saved under my Vimeo account. So you guys, you won't have access to this video, but you could just use an image, which I will also attach to the to this lesson, sorry. And you can use just a image instead of a video. So I'm going to copy this link here, but this is just so that you can see how to do this with a video. So now, under the video link, I'm going to paste in the video. And then that's going to bring up the video from my Vimeo account. Now, you can host it for free from YouTube. I don't think, or you might even be able to host it for free with a free Vimeo account. So there are different hosts that will host your videos for free. I know if you was to just have a YouTube channel, you could have just added it to that as well. So you don't need to have been paying for a Vimeo account. That's not necessary. You can do that just with a YouTube account. So what I want to do here now that we have this video background, which I like the look of, so I'm just going to add a background overlay to that of our gradient. So I'm going to select gradient now. The primary color is going to be the first color and the secondary as the second. Going to change that angle to, I think we was at about 320 last time, wasn't we? Again, this is where I let my OCD get the better of me. Let's go with 300. I'm going to change the opacity so that it's a bit darker, so that video background is very sort of subtle. So maybe, yeah, something like 0.75 is okay. Now, looking at this text now, it's definitely going to need their colors changing. In fact, we could change that opacity even more, right? So keep it like that. So now let's just change the color of our H1 on the page. So let's change this to our accent color. Let's change the font color here to maybe black, just so that it stands out. And I think that that is already looking a lot better. So one last thing that I would do here is select this container one more time. Going to come along to style and then to shape divider. Just going to add to the bottom here a shape. I'm not sure which one to go for. Maybe mountains. I also like the waves. Let's make that height not quite so dramatic. So we could go for something like that, or we could go for mountains. Oh, decisions. I'm gonna go with the waves. I'm going to leave it as that. That is looking good, I think. What I'm actually going to do is make this section a little this container. It's the section still stuck within me, rooted for years building with sections and containers. I'm going to make this actually 650 so that it is looking like that. So that is our hero setup. I'm happy with the way that hero looks. I'm going to select the structure here just to keep this in order. I'm going to double click container and just call this the hero, so that we know that that is our first container with our hero element in it. So that is looking good. In fact, let's just detach that from... Why is that attached? That's annoying. Won't let me... there we go. So detach that from that. We can also check this for responsiveness. So how it looks on tablet, sorry. I could make that text a little bit smaller. In fact, I probably would, but I'm not going to mess around with that because, again, you're not going to gain anything from watching me do that. Even with the header, I would change that to hamburger to a mobile only hamburger, and then just tweak that header to contain those 3 menu items as well. But again, I'm not going to mess around and waste your time showing you how to do that because you know how to do to edit these things responsively anyway. So let's just check this on a mobile. We can see that that all drops down. And that is looking, where's that woman gone? She's disappeared from that one. In fact, where was she in the tablet? Let's take a look. So she's she's a mini person in the top corner there. So we'll definitely need to do something with her. So let's select her, the mini woman in the top. So let's select her. Let's come to style here. I don't know why she is so small. In fact, something isn't quite right there because she definitely isn't 350 pixels there. So not quite sure what is going on. We actually try and move her under advanced. Let's move her orientation. Okay, so she's definitely growing when she comes over here. So for whatever the reason, let's come back to style now and make that the correct size. God, this is really slow today. I don't know why. I need to close some tabs down, I think. So maybe make her, let's try and gauge that by eye. I'll say maybe 80. Now we can come back to the advanced. We can come down to orientation, horizontal orientation. Let's move her across. Oh, that was almost bang on. First time height wise. I'm just amazed myself how good I am sometimes. So that is working a lot better there. So she is in place. You could make her a bit taller, but I'm not. Again, I'm not going to let my OCD get the better of me. She is fine like that. Let's just take a look at her on the mobile, and she's okay like that. We could change that vertical alignment, bring her up to the same height. In fact, she looks a bit taller than him there, doesn't she? So we can make her maybe 80. Maybe 76. We'll change that vertical alignment one more time. So we'll go with like that. And she's looking fine like that. So that is basically our hero done. Now, if you wanted to tweak the sizes of these as well, then absolutely do that. You know how to. But I would say that that is a pretty well designed hero. We could in fact make this a little bit taller for a mobile because the images are just hanging off the bottom a little bit. That's okay like that. In fact, what we could do with this outer container here, the inner of the outer container, we could just add a little bit of negative margin just to move it up a bit. So we'll uncheck that, give that some negative margin just to bump that up. And I would say that is looking a lot better like that. So that is our hero taken care of. Like I said, I would also make your header responsive, fully responsive, because again, I don't like how it drops into 2 lines. You definitely want to make that contact us button smaller, or maybe move that into the menu itself by using a different menu. But I think for now that is looking really good. So I'm not going to worry about these other little tiny details that anybody can do. We're going to carry straight on with a lot of the more advanced stuff so that we can make this website really shine and, you know, have a bit of a bang to it. So moving on, we're going to carry on with the homepage and move on to the next section.